Words from a very wise man if we don't say so ourselves. What up fam, it's your man CJ Williams repping for Culturalist Theory, and we're gonna run this one a little bit differently here today as we break down the catalog of one of Brooklyn's finest that's been in this hip-hop game for more than half of its existence. That's right y'all, we're talking about none other than the highest playing card out the deck, the capital AC to the E, Masta Ace. If you only remember him as a guy that had a light hit or two in the 90s, then strap in for this ride with CT as we break it all the way down for you. Known for his penchant of crafting some of the best concept albums known to man, we've decided to jack a theme from a certified hood classic TV series, which also had one of the songs from our top pick featured on its soundtrack. Think you can figure it out before we get there? Great, but either way, you're gonna need to lock in from start to finish in order to unscramble the full picture. The only items off the table today are the 2 LPs, offshoot group EMC, leaving us with a total of 10 albums to cover. We're never above asking y'all to do all the YouTube things, so go ahead and like, share, subscribe, check us out on Patreon and all that other good stuff. Alright, now we've held y'all long enough, it's time to get the show started. Number 10, Arts and Entertainment. The moment when Brooklyn crossed roads with Boston led to this one and done collaboration between Masta Ace and Ed OG. As much as we hate to say it, its Art and Entertainment is easily the most forgettable record that the capital A has ever been involved in. Point blank period. A master of the concept album, it was originally intended to release as A&E with the famed cable network's logo and all. But of course, they caught wind of it as they began dropping promos for the project, essentially forcing them to alter it to the current title. The theme of a loving couple having good times together in front of the boob tube does little to connect this compilation of songs, with quite a few missed ops here. Exhibit A, A's E's, This Is What We Do. The concept of Ace and Ed OG crafting all rhymes that begin with the first letter of their respective monikers is fire. Yet the beat they rhyme over simply isn't good enough, on top of Marsha Ambrosius' voice being so heavily altered. You never know it was her unless someone told you so. A similar story applies to the incorrectly named Good Music featuring Plug One, aka Posthumous from De La Soul. No issues with the lyrics by any of the MCs, but the backing track is generic as a can of Dr. Perk. Then we get the 1,000,000th use of M2May's Juicy Fruit on Round and Round, a simple joint about the pair's various travels across the world. And don't get us started on Dancing Like a White Girl. We know it's supposed to be a joke per se, but if you do choose to listen to this album, please don't waste a second going into this one. There are a few pieces in here that keep A&E from being a complete crash out, such as The Fans with Large Professor and Pass the Mic with Knowledge Reigns Supreme over nearly everyone, because it's illegal to come whack when KRS-One is on the track. Ed O's solo joint Here I Go Again would have been a better fit at the top of the album, as he gives us a much needed refresher as to what he did in the beginning of his rap career, so definitely give that a spin to pique your curiosity. Lil Young sees the duo making raps off of all the players in the game with Little and Young in the front of their name, which fits the bill for being entertaining. More of what we received on 8 is Enough would have certainly given this album a much needed jolt in the arm, and we especially dig this line from Ed O right here.
Rappers talk shit, then they apologize.
I pray that my nigga really didn't feel no way, and if he did, my nigga, I got my chin out. Take your best shot.
One thing's for certain and two things for sure, we're standing 10 toes down in the fact that this one deserves to stay right in 2009. There's a reason the pair have never reconnected since. Number 9, M.A. Doom, Son of Yvonne. As the title of the 2012 outing suggests, Son of Yvonne is a semi-dedication of sorts, going over the come-up, what it was like for a young Duval Clear to be the son of Yvonne Clear in the borough of Brooklyn, Brownsville to be more precise. It's a heartfelt concept starting out with 1970-something, giving us a glimpse of how it was to take sneak listens of his mom's record collection, which helped develop his ever-growing love for music. Right after that, the title track is the exclamation point that this one man is the product of all the things that nurtured him as a kid, sewn together as one, just like one of his Nana's blankets. We would elaborate on Me and My Gang, but you've already heard a better iteration of this in 1995 by way of People in My Hood, so let's move on. Same goes for Slow Down, because yeah, we love sitting on Chrome, but we didn't ask for the extended / alternate version of what took place on the second verse. We can think of tons of random reasons why it took over 2 decades for Kane and Ace to team up on record again, but once they finally do on Think I Am, to be honest, it's a tad underwhelming. We are well aware they're far more capable on what they rustled up here, and sadly that sums up the majority of this short project. Yes, Ace is an articulate and clever artist, and MF Doom an equally gifted producer in his own right, rest in peace, but the beats that Ace chose from Doom's mixtapes just don't mesh well here, and outside of the young narrator playing young Duval that strings the narrative together, Son of Yvonne feels like the 10th track on the set list, which is Hotel Leftovers. And like the homie Wale once said,
seeing a nigga in that book, and if that thing been used up.
We'll give additional spins on the final 2 tracks, I Did It and In the Spot, on occasion, but outside of that, we're checking out of here early. Number 8, A Long Hot Summer. After enduring 3 other emotional seasons across 360 some odd days, summer is the most anticipated for the majority of us. Be it nostalgia for staycations in your hood with siblings and cousins, present day costly trips away from significant others on the solo tip, and everything in between, summer XYZ in that particular year was memorable for one reason or another. In the case of Masta Ace, his knucklehead associate Fats Belvedere got him into some shit that you wouldn't believe. We're not gonna spoil it for you, but this guy's temper and voice is giving us imitation Joe Pesci vibes, full of perfect meme fodder for this.
Jesus Christ, would you shut the fuck up? You're gonna make me lose count again.
Definitely enjoying the story across this one. Touted as a prequel to his previous drop Disposable Arts, we do get a few similar tracks in 2004 that try to bounce off the 01 output to varying degrees of enjoyment. The sex-type joint Travelocity does not hit the same as I Like That did, so we've canceled our booking there. Jean Grey's return on Soda and Soap is limited to hook duty as Ace constructs a story around all our favorite soda brands and familiar laundry detergents of all things, as the beat causes necks to bob up and down. Never forgetting where he came from, of course there's a joint about the hood, so why not call it that? HOOD certainly has that hot summertime feel to it, complete with the sped up Chipmunk Soul sample backdrop that was prevalent at the time. Brooklyn Masala features Lachey is the story of coming across that not so New York shorty who catches his eye over a laid back track, and once that union breaks down, look no further than the Mad at Everyone and Everything joint Fuck All Y'all alongside Strickland. A great play when you want to let off some steam and have a good laugh. More steam and frustration is let out in cinematic fashion on The Ways, which details the wet dreams of every artist who's ever gotten a raw deal in the music biz. And you know what? Fuck that, let's throw in a jab here for good measure from the track.
And Diddy had a problem with Stevie Stout. Got a Cristal bottle, knock Stevie out. Damn, he even whip a nigga ass in style.
We had the signs all along, just chose to ignore them. Ed OG's appearance on What You Want to Know was alright, but not strong enough to lead to an entire collaborative album in our humble opinion. However, the Beatnuts and Rozelle fared much better on Oh My God. The reason that Long Hot Summer is in the lower tier is simply because it lacks those 2 or 3 clear standouts to define it. At least there was an actual single this go round in Good Old Love, yet promo for the album remained poor. 2 decades plus later, true Ace fans already know there's enough here that'll take them back to whichever summer they held closest to their heart. Number 7, Take a Look Around. Once you heard the capital A rap on the symphony with the Mighty Juice Crew in the late 80s, you felt that his style was just a bit different. And for everyone who wanted a little bit more, he eagerly invited them to witness what he's cooking on 1990's Take a Look Around. This long out of print record can't be found on any streaming services at the moment, so thank YouTube for housing it here in the archives for us to dig into. Somehow it was severely overlooked, even with the Cold Chillin' drop Together, one of its best tracks, as the lead single. Me and the Biz, where Ace ended up doing his best impersonation of his label mate since he was on the Bismarck time zone, was probably the track that may have been the most remembered from this period. But hey, our age was still in the single digits back then, as we were bopping to the joint from that big humpy nose guy. You know, the one who was tickling girls with it in a 69? Whatever that meant. As expected, this Marley Marl Helm production, save for a select few done by Mr. C, is drowned in that late 80s, early 90s aesthetic, sans any New Jack Swing influence. So if you can dig it, you can still appreciate this, but if not, it simply won't appeal to your taste. But like the GZA's first album on the same label that suffered the exact same fate, it's not because this offbeat Brooklynite couldn't rhyme. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here now talking about him 35 years later. We urge you to lend your ears to Music Man, the slow and precise flows heard on Brooklyn Battles, and the James Brown sample infused I Got To as jump off points. All you Nickelodeon kids out there may recognize the backing melody from Clarissa Explains It All on Letter to the Better, which also sounds like it would have fit perfectly on the Juice soundtrack if you let us tell it. Ace was one of the earliest to give us his raw thoughts as simple poetry on the title track, and we get savage tales of second-rate living in The Other Side of Town. Part 2 of the symphony is labeled as 4-3, which is exactly what the title suggests, and here is where we witness his inaugural instance of turning any group of things into a song on Maybe Next Time. Check the third verse and see if you can pick out all the TV show titles that were included. Other than the dated production it's draped in, we really don't have any negative thoughts regarding this solo debut. Take a Look Around lacks the gangstar mass appeal, so to speak, but if you enjoy real hip-hop that isn't exactly like everything else you've heard, seek this one out and see how it fits on you. Number 6, A Brooklyn Story. with Marco Polo. Moving into the next phase of his decade-spanning career, D Clear teamed up with cross-border producer M. Bruno, aka Marco Polo, for this late 2018 record. If you were thinking the pair was a tad tipsy from some Canadian mist when titling this project, Brooklyn is actually a little city in Netherlands, which is where the New York City borough takes its name from. See, you learn something new every time you tune into our channel. Most importantly though, we're sure you want to know if Ace can still rock the place, and is this Marco fella any good at hip-hop production? To hit a pair of birds with one rock? Yep. Marco was properly introduced to the audience across the skits in between as the Masta continues to give us stories that only a man born and raised from the famed borough could. Brooklyn Brooklyn featuring Smith & Wesson is a major shout out to many people and things that make the BK what it is over a head-nodding, piano-driven track. Immediately following that, Marco gives us a DJ Premier style beat on Get Shot as the hook incorporates scratched-in samples from one Brooklyn Zoomate who's been resting in peace for a while now, and another Brooklyn brother who was born 3 years after to the exact day as Ace. We're actually surprised it took so long for him to connect with another proud Brownsville representative in MOP's Little Fame on Count 'Em Up, but glad it's finally happened as they tell tales of the insane amount of brown people who get yanked into America's jail systems. Speaking of which, the theme of USA continues right on into American Me, and Styles P drops some hot shit on Man Law, who outright claims his mouth is a gun. Damn, bro. But the same could be said for the capital A on God Bodies, Corporal Punishment, and 3 with his group mate EMC. It certainly would have been called 4 if Punchline was still around, but we digress. Easily the most clutch joint here is the album finale, the fight song alongside Pharoah Monch, who raps from the perspective of multiple sclerosis, looking to gain superiority over all other illnesses in existence. Ace personally suffers from this condition, so yes, when he says that his spine was tingling and his vision was off, his lie count was at 0. His vigilance in rap and life in general against this debilitating sickness makes for an intriguing listen. We just wish there were more moments like this throughout. It feels like we're left on a cliffhanger here, and the hardest part about it was the 5+ years that passed before the story resumed. How'd it play out, you ask? Stay tuned to find out. Number 5, Sitting on Chrome. Because you didn't earn a nickname like Crooklyn for being a great place to be at, right? Criticized for being too West Coast sounding for an East Coast based artist as the whole East-West situation was striking up. Obviously, heads just skipped right over the intro to hear that For the Love of You sampling the INC ride and never looked back. We can't blame them though, as the stilted flow over the butter smooth track is catchy and easy to follow, eventually shouting out all of the coveted rides a young man could want in the 9-5. There's another version of that track on here as well, but we'll get to that later. However, the intro immediately illustrates that as his cousin Jerome Rome, watch your mouth, and Jerome touches down in BK from LA to chop it up for the summer, that although they have lots of differences between them, they also share a lot in common. Something we wish Big and Pac could have learned before their lives were cut so tragically short. While not all of the skits with Cousin Jay are hilarious as old Marty Marr's Jerome, those that pay attention to detail eventually may have noticed that on tracks like The Answer, that Ace references how his connect with his cousin let him slide into an exclusive party, or that verbal daps to old homies Bismarck and Kane are sprinkled in What's Going On in ways that one West Coast gamer could never play it. But with a dope-ass gold-themed album cover like this, you're expecting some fat jams with fly rhymes to keep your head nodding, right? Well, the ACE and his crew do not disappoint, fam. Freestyle, People in My Hood, and the slamming title track caused us to hit the rewind button plenty of times way back when and still do in the present. Lord Digga's best contributions are on verse 1 and 3 on You Can't Find Me, and we wish that John Cena's people would have found a way to incorporate it into his theme, no pun intended. The two joints with the whole INC crew of Ace, Digga, Paula Perry, and Lachey, Eastbound, and the B-side are equally dope, although the production behind them sound far too similar. Turn It Up is an outlier here, being Lachey's R&B solo joint for the ladies to break up the string of hardcore, dirty street level shit that her eventual husband Ace would play every damn time she got in the car. For the Mind featuring another forgotten about crew named the Cellar Dwellers would have been a disappointing way to end this summertime journey in Brooklyn, but luckily no Diddy Bop remix was necessary to properly end this record. The Fat Cat Ride, produced by Little Louis Vega, is essentially the West Coast incarceration of the INC ride and the self-reproduced Born to Roll is the epitome of how to do a clean version remix. The new beat was more airwave friendly, and there were 2 reshot videos, one pristine clean, the other a crystal ball of what BET Uncut would look like in the early 2000s. For the few who made it this far in the review without knowing what Born to Roll birthed from, allow us to present to you number 4, Slaughterhouse. And that includes the former incarceration of himself from 3 long years prior. Need proof? Master was forever changed to Masta, while including a few local friends dubbed as the INC, hence the name Masta Ace Incorporated. Don't get it twisted though, there's only one track where his voice is not heard on this record. The dark and gritty album cover gives no clear indication this is the same rapper blazing across the front of Take a Look Around. Here he is in his own words on how he felt about the change in 9-3 from 1990.
My thought process when we were making Slaughterhouse was to do the grimiest, most grungiest sounding record that I could do. I wanted to get as far away from Me and the Biz, that song, as I possibly could, because it was a novelty record.
The change in record labels from Warner Brothers, Cold Chillin' over to Delicious Vinyl was also necessary to allow him to make the lead single entitled Jeep Ass Nigga. If there was never Jeep Ass Nigga, there would have been no Born to Roll to succeed it. Extra props for how the video mimicked the lyrics to a T. LL and Ace were definitely onto something with the car culture raps in the early 90s. When Ace flipped his cap to the side, that meant he was in producer mode under the moniker Ace One, handling the majority of said duties with 0 input from Marley Marl on the sophomore drop. This effectively eradicated the prior incarnation of D Clear that you thought you knew. Before Raekwon dropped the purple tape, this cult classic right here was known as the yellow tape, loosely and intentionally poking fun at all of the so-called gangster rappers that were blowing up at the time. The Slaughterhouse was the place where their sheer existence would come to a bloody end. No time was wasted in getting the message across as Unique and Ice Rock turned into MC Negro and the Ignorant MC on the hilarious hyperbolic first section of the title track before Ace swoops in after the beat changes, dismissing 99 brainless rappers who want to do nothing more than bring death. Who You Jackin' finds Ace and badass FemC Paula Perry doing a tit-for-tat flow, with the former as a BK stick-up kid looking for easy Vicks, and the latter being a B-girl on Razor's Edge, ready to slice and dice the next cat, thinking they can pull a snatch and run on her. A bitch so bad she'll pistol whip your ass without a gun. Saying that Biggie's Gimme the Loot took a bit of inspiration from this wouldn't be a stretch. The rest of the fellas returned immediately afterwards, all defecating on the mic across the highly energetic closing track Saturday Night Live, hopefully null and voiding any and all gangster rap that ever touched your ears in 93. Of course, we all know that never happened, as its unremarkable sales and chart position sold. But this against the grain outing still found its targeted audience and is proof he was on the right path, seeing how much longer he's outlasted all the gangster rappers that he correctly predicted wouldn't make it. And now that we're closing in on the top 3, we like to take a quick pause for the cause to let you, the culturalist, to wax poetic on your thoughts of the trio of EMC drops out there. Which one was your favorite, second best, and bottom holder? Talk about it down in the comments, and don't forget we've got a Patreon situation going on too. If the demand's high enough, maybe we'll even drop an exclusive mini review of the EMC set. Alright, intermission's over, back to the show. Number 3, Richmond Hill with Marco Polo. Initially slated to drop in 2020, some sort of worldwide sickness of sorts took over the world and threw everything out of whack, with this project being no different. Hence the half-decade plus lull in between releases. Placing in the top 3 of our rankings says that the wait was well worth it, and instead of possibly receiving a lot of commentary on what was going on at the time being a main theme, the lens is focused on the man behind the boards. Richmond Hill is the town where he's from up in Ontario. No worries if you've never crossed the Canadian border before, as there's plenty of relatable stories and good vibes to soak up here. Head immediately to Poor People Everywhere, or PPE for short, Money Problems, and Jordan Theory for starters.
Mom saying no was our favorite anthem. We been hearing no, no. Most of our lives it was no.
3 months rent for a pair of J's is insane no matter how fly and exclusive they are, but let's turn it to you, the culturalist, for a moment. How many of you have become your parents and hear yourselves telling your kids, nieces, and nephews the same thing? Y'all know where to share those stories at with us below. Long Isle enters the building by way of Rebel INS on Hero for a good one, although we're quite perplexed as to why he wasn't also featured on Below the Clouds, as Ace clearly shouts out all who were involved in the 1998 original Above the Clouds from Gang Starr's Moment of Truth Groove record. Fortunately, Polo's production is equally potent as Primo's, and Blue makes a worthwhile contribution to it as well. Of course, it wouldn't be an Ace project without showing love to his borough on Brooklyn Heights, nourishment for our minds on Plant-Based, or just having a good time and reflecting on our own mortality on Life Music featuring Strickland. The most lyrically impressive joint in RH though is simply called Connections, and is his most complex concept track to date. You'll have to listen and re-listen to catch the half, and even then, don't be surprised if it takes you years to connect all of the dots here. With Ace's thoughtful approach to every song attached to the slamming selections that Polo lays down, all we have left to say is that hopefully it's not another half decade before this pair delivers their next future classic. Number 2, The Fallen Season. High school. Those awkward coming of age years where every teenager is trying to find themselves, deal with their quickly changing bodies, all while attempting to figure out what career they may end up committing to for the rest of their lives. All of the points Ace wants to get across about high school life are made loud and clear, making a full recovery with 2016's The Falling Season over his preceding effort, Son of Yvonne. Kick Beats production is much tighter and better fitting this go round. The concept and stories of coming in as a high school freshman through taking that glorious walk across the stage as a graduating senior will certainly jog all of your own personal memories of doing the same. High school shit featuring Torre as a head nodder, with the back and forth roast of each other's respective schools and the people inside them being particularly enthralling. Riding the bus can range from eventful to traumatizing, and with the author's point of view being NYC in the 80s, from Brownsville to Sheepheads Bay, Mr. Bus Driver leads us far more toward the latter. For the majority of us who have never heard of Sheepheads Bay, we are properly introduced to it on the lead track 3000 Avenue X, and we love the cleverness on this line dropped on Say Goodbye, so much so that we just had to make sure our audience peeped it too.
All we know is negative. Say goodbye to positive. Say goodbye to fuck, cause that ain't what we gotta give.
And that's on everything, fam. And riddle us this, is it geometry or trigonometry that had you most vexed as a teen? Well, it's in plain view that Mr. Clear would be your favorite math teacher if every lesson was in hip-hop form as taught on mathematics. And you can take your pick of all of the dropouts turned so-called rap artists who should have taken a career in Uber, as noted on Me and AG. Oh yeah, did we mention that Fats Belvedere makes his return here as well? Yep, turns out he's been around far longer than what we thought from 04's A Long Hot Summer. From top to bottom, there's very little here to make a case for the skip button to be used. Whoever said that taking it back to your high school years couldn't be fun has obviously been absent for the Falling Season, so let Culturalist Theory be the ones to lead your ass back to class. Number 1, Disposable Arts. Picture a mic, the stage is empty, and a beat like this. False start. Let's try this again. It's been a long time since he's been away. 5, 6 years, something like that. Just getting back on the streets with the new millennium in full swing now, and that once familiar landscape of hip-hop you knew in 95 looks completely unrecognizable in 2001. All of your so-called friends gone with the wind during your darkest hours, but now that you're touching grass again, you vow that you'll never ever go back to that dead space again. Enter Masta Ace 3.0. With Lachey being the only one found from the INC era here on out, the Masta is back, putting everything he's got into what he believes will be his swan song. Unbeknownst to the public at large, those two had become one. He had just been diagnosed with MS and was feeling like he was in his last days. The way that his new label, J-Core Entertainment, had folded almost immediately after Disposable Arts finally saw the light of day in the fall of 01 would indeed have been the final nail in the coffin for a lesser artist.
He was going down, we figured, but this wasn't no ordinary nigga.
Taking out a brother from BK wasn't gonna be no cakewalk though, and if he was going out, it would be on his own terms. Being more collaborative than ever with features and on the production side, all MA projects since this one have sounded nothing like the previous trio. We get an apology song for his extended hiatus on Too Long, before the story sees him enrolling in hip-hop college and having the most unintentionally funny first encounter with his Canadian roommate Paul. Not often will you hear us giving praise to skits, but Roommate's meat is just as good as a lot of the songs are here. Again, no spoilers here, but the 75-minute runtime will be worth it. Last thing you think about in college is PTA or a bowl of alphabet soup, but those are decent electives in the syllabus here. Some of the more interesting plot twists include I Like That, where we first meet Punchline and Wordsmith for a no-holds-barred sex joint that's dope as fuck. The fire breathing within the Music Man has never been as intense as it is on the best diss track you've never heard of, Acknowledge. Not only does he note that he'd rather hear a circa 01 era Lil Wayne and Lil Zane track than his intended targets, he even drops his elbow on their asses.
This you over fast, slow track, or no track. If your shit wasn't so whack, I dish it to your track.
Definitely one of those moments to make you go, ooh. His disgust with the rap game oozes out right after that on Enough, and the fourth piece to the eventual EMC crew, Strickland, makes his offensive line debut alongside Ace on Unfriendly Game, allowing him to run one in for 6. This was the track featured that hood classic TV show known as The Wire. And maybe now it makes sense why you saw a quote from each album before we went in. Holler at us in the comments if you caught on or had not a clue as to what was going on so we can revoke your black card. Knowing what we know now, can't help but wonder if Hold You featuring Jean Grey was a thinly veiled peek into his mind when it comes to Lachey. And yep, he even made a song for nosy ass people like us featuring his better half and Rod Digger on Type I Hate. All loose ends are tied up by the end of the album, and Duval Clear finishes it off by letting us know that for what it's worth, he has no regrets if his voice is never heard out loud again. Ditto for us putting Disposable Arts as his #1 album. Fortunately for all of us, he was as wrong as your local weather forecast about his prognosis, continually getting better with time. For those who've been rocking with the A for a while, we hope we've served you well with our breakdown today, and for the rest who've never experienced a Masta Ace album in full, hopefully we've motivated you to seek out his catalog and hear it for yourself now. Whichever side you fall on, talk about it down in the comments and share this clip with a friend or a 5. Once again, it's your man CJ Williams repping for the culture, and until the next one, check out our oldies but goodies on your screen right here. Peace.